I love watching you fight because like you scare the piss out of me. You were dangerous before, but this is like next level.
You know, I wish Jake Paul would fight me bare knuckle.
You destroy him. I fought for the world title when I was at Strikeforce twice against Luke Rockhold and Jacare Souza. In both those titles, that wasn't like the best me, and I was being a little coward in those matches. If I could go back in time, I'd just tell that fighter to fight. Just go beat that dude.
Obviously, everyone knows who the Navy SEALs are. What specifically makes them so good?
Millions of dollars are poured into these guys to transform them into truly the most elite fighting force on the planet. And they're all here in the United States.
Speaking of your military background, I have some military SWAT team and police officer friends. I saw that they had a podcast and they were speaking about your book. They had a guest on who was in the military, and he was saying that it wasn't exactly true. Here we are again, folks. OVERDOGS Podcast. We got another banger for you today. Our guest today coming on will be Tim Kennedy. There's been a lot of things that I've heard recently about Tim Kennedy. Mostly there was this one about something about 400 soldiers, and they were trapped, and there was 400 soldiers, and then I saw a video. You know what? One of these police SWAT podcasts that I see out here in Orlando, I know the guys. They were talking to somebody who said that Tim Kennedy was bluffing about a lot of these things, these military interactions. So because of that, I definitely want to ask him some of the tougher questions today, but I still got a lot of respect for the guy. I mean, he's been in the limelight, and he's, I know he does train military grade stuff, and like he does the, he does the courses and all this type of stuff, and he's fairly good at it. So, you can't lie about that. So we'll see what's going to happen today.
Where that came from is his book, Scars and Stripes. Like in it, he talks about some of like combat missions he was on. And I guess some people from the military or people from his squad or something kind of disputed some of his stories. Like maybe he embellished it a little bit, but that's not stolen valor. He was still like an Army Ranger. But yeah, we'll get to the bottom of that. We'll ask him about that.
Anybody who served, I don't know if it's disrespectful to salute to you guys because I'm not military. I know that the military loves fighters. They do love people that fight and compete. And I've got, I've met a lot of military people that are pretty cool, down to earth people, but respect for all the service members out there, because you guys go through stuff that nobody else wants to go through, including fighters, you know what I mean? So, fighters do stuff and people tell us fans, be like, oh man, I don't know how you guys do it. And then I look at the military guys, I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it. I used to train with out in New Mexico, Frank Lester, Frank the Tank Lester, or that might not have been his name. I don't know. But he was in the military. He told me some wild. He was definitely off the hinges. He held it together pretty good as far as I'm concerned. But, he told me some crazy stories about being out there, and the one time they attacked his camp, and they were in a fight for like 12 to 17 hours all night. They're just into the mountains. You can't see no one out there, and they're just ripping by, people getting taken out, and that's pretty wild.
What is your favorite like war movie?
Shoot.
I can't tell if you're like trying to. You're like,
you know what, man? I like a lot of them. I like Inglourious Bastards. I like Fury, where the guy
Fury's
said,
so hard, bro.
and I said, "Here am I, God. Send Me.
Send Me. That's my favorite part too, bro. That's
Tearjerker.
hard, dog.
Last night, not a war movie, but I watched this movie called Greater about a football player who was a little fat kid, and he, the moral of the story was he always just did the right thing. He was always studying. He was always working overtime, working on his steps, lost his weight, kept training. He was a walk-on for Arkansas, and at the end of the movie, I'm not going to spoil it. So now they have a trophy award for him that's given to 2% of the best walk-ons that year, the best athletes that year that were walk-ons to start. And what was his name? Burleson or something like that was his last name. And that was a pretty good movie, to be honest with you. So I know it didn't have to do with war, but there's different wars. We're all in war out here. It's all a battle every day. I'm in battle with the courts, with probation, with with mortgage, with rent, with housing, with space, with family, just all these things that just give you this battle. So, shout out to anybody going through a battle right now. It's not as big as you're making it in your head. Last night I was in some type of, a spiral going on, and I wake up this morning and everything just seems to fall in line. Everyone starts, I guess if I give them attitude for a day, maybe the next day after they're done arguing with me, we can all get along together. And I'm like, well, why couldn't we do that last night? But anyways, it's not as big as we all made it out to be. And if you're going through a battle right now, find someone you can talk to and, never give up.
Amen. Dude, real quick, you got to watch there's a newer war movie called Covenant out. Watch it. I watched it just on a whim.
Is that where Los Angeles flips over?
No. It's Jake Gyllenhaal, the guy from that Conor McGregor Roadhouse movie, but he's in Afghanistan or something, and their interpreter. It's a great movie, dude. Action packed, is dope. Check that one out. But what the going on with Conor right now, bro? Crashing the out, and I mean he's been doing that for years. But what?
I mean, his crash outs is one thing that people like to see and pay attention to, and obviously because he can delete stuff, and they always make sure they grab it before he deletes it. They always screenshot it or whatever. Bringing in our guest here, Tim Kennedy, the military veteran. Much respect to you, sir. How you doing?
Amazing. I'm gonna be back in the office in 90 seconds. I'm so unprofessional calling from the car, but I didn't want to be late. So I'll be properly doing our podcast in a few seconds. How you doing, Mike? Big fan.
Oh, thanks so much, man. I'm a fan of your work as well, sir. I'm doing great. Thank you. I was talking to my boy here, Mac Malley. We were just talking about all this stuff, and I got a good list of questions of things on here for you. Speaking of your military background, this is a question that I wanted to ask you. Is I have some military SWAT team and police officer friends here in Orlando, Florida, and I saw that they had a podcast and they were speaking about your book, and they were talking, the part that I remember is they were speaking on the 400 soldiers that you were trapped down, and there was lots of Iranian soldiers around you, and they were saying that they had a guest on who was in the military, and he was saying that it wasn't exactly true. And I just want to know your thoughts on how to clear that up, and you were barricaded down in the military and you were defending yourself or your camp, and you were trapped around all these Iranian soldiers. Just talk to us a little bit about your book and some of your military experiences.
Yeah. So I enlisted on 9/11, IRR for a while, waiting to get a basic training slot for becoming an 18 X-ray, a special forces recruit. So I went to infantry school after basic training. Then I went to airborne school. Then I went to special forces selection. I got selected. Then I went through the Q course. I became a Green Beret, Ranger School, Sniper School, Iraq, Afghanistan. And then I wrote a book called Scars and Stripes, New York Times bestseller. And the book really is about all of my failures. The book is about all of the mistakes that I made as a man, as a soldier, as an immature operator, still learning the ropes. And, some of those portions of the book I'm writing about when I'm 9 years old. And then, the first time that I went to Iraq, I was, that's almost 20 years ago. That was 18 years ago. When I went to Afghanistan, that was 16 years ago. And I journaled while I was, and I still journal in the military. And so I referenced those books and my notes when I wrote that book with my friend Nick Palmisciano. I had a co-author in that book, Nick, so I could be as honest and transparent as I could. And then I would do intros with Nick, to friends and teammates that were with me in some of those operations or in some of those moments of my life. But the narrative, the whole entire arc of that story is really about imperfection and failures. And I absolutely did my best to be as accurate as I could. In the very first page, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get everything right. And I didn't. I got things wrong. I said I was using one when I was using a different. I said I packed a speed bag, which is like a backpack that you pack with grenades and magazines before you go on an operation if you're going to kind of get into it. And I said I had 50 grenades in that backpack. I have no idea how many grenades I put in that backpack. It was as many grenades as I could fit. And then, they're like, oh, did Tim, no, there's no way Tim had 50 grenades in there. Like, you're right. I don't know. But I was writing it in first person present tense. And to the 25-year-old kid in Afghanistan, when you're getting scuffed up, and like the first time I went to Iraq, I was with a baller group of men, of leaders, of special operations guys that they don't lose very often. So we were the hammer the whole entire time. There was never while there were lots of fights, there was never one that was not completely dominated by the special operations task force that were there. Afghanistan was a different thing. Afghanistan was the first time that I was never on an ODA. I was never with assigned to a specific team, an operational detachment alpha. I would rotate with different coalition assets. So in this one particular mission, I was with the Czech Special Forces. And we got ambushed when we were escorting them to Firebase Anaconda in the Urazgan Valley. And it ended up being a pretty big fight. We got blown up right at the beginning of the fight. And some of the guys that were on the ground have different recount. They recount what happened different than how I remember it. And that is super normal. You could talk to 12 guys that are, in a fight, and you're going to get 12 very different stories. I respect them wholly, and I think they're incredible men that I'm grateful for their service. There's no part of me that was trying to lie. There's no part that was trying to misrepresent anything. And, and I think that I know that I want the best for them and their families. I'm never going to disparage them, especially publicly. And I even went to one of them and I apologized because I said something negative about one of those guys in the book. And I kind of live by now never saying something negative about somebody that I've worked with. So I was like, man, I said something, I disparaged you in my book and I'm super sorry.
Amen. Wow.
Is it anything like when you get in a fight? Because like a UFC fight, you could win by KO, and then they're asking the guy to walk them through what happened. They're like, I don't even remember. I don't know. That was wild.
100%.
And then you watch it back, and you kind of convince yourself you remember. And so they're like, oh, dude, Tim, bro, I did this in my own speed bag. 46 grenades is all I could put in there, bro. You're lying. Like, bro,
exactly. Man, I just had fights. I'd go back and look. Like when I fought Gracie, I shot an inside single. He steps over with his long ass legs. He takes my back. And in my mind, he had my back for like 5 seconds before I fought his choke arm. I bellied down, turned over, got his guard, stepped out. And then like, well, when I go back and watch, that is not what happened. You know, the dude's Hunter Gracie's a hard dude to get off your back. I'll tell you what. And like he's scuffing me up from the back for a while. And it took me a long time to escape that position, but that's not how I remembered it, you know? And like, I was like 60% wrong in how I remembered it. And I go back and I looked at the tape and I was like, wait a second. Well, there's no tape for what happened in Afghanistan in 2007 and 2008, right? It's my journals, my brain, which is also blown up, absolutely concussed, and imperfection in how I remember, what I remember, and ultimately what I wrote about. But as accurate as I could possibly be with all the memories that I had and all of the notes that I had. I don't know, man. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry you're mad at me, but like nothing I can do about it.
No, I think you gave a great explanation. I mean, just hearing how you talk, it's like obvious that you were in those situations. 'Cause I mean, I couldn't make up something like that. You know what I mean? So just the way you went through the story and everything, you know, I'm definitely going to talk to some of my guys out here. And once this episode comes out and we'll get to see what they think about your explanation, I want to know from them as we have a ruck coming up, a 75-mile ruck. I'm going to do as many as I can. I'm not counting on doing the whole 75 miles in 26 hours or less, but I plan to go out there and spend some time with those guys. And
is that with Go Ruck?
It's Ruck For Mike. Ruckformike.com is a website that they have. It's out here in Central Florida, and we do it for a friend of mine that passed away. He was a SWAT member and a police officer here, and he passed away from his dreams of being a fighter. He was one bad dude for sure when it came to technique and skill, and he had to get brain treatment, or they did emergency brain surgery, and he never woke up. So now,
God, I'm so
it's
sorry.
been a couple years we do Ruck For Mike, and I'm the Sunday before I fought Thiago Alves in bare knuckle, I did 15 miles that day. I had blisters on my feet, and the ruck is like where you wear 20 pounds.
I love rucking. It's one of my favorite forms of exercise.
Yeah, I figured you did them. I mean, if I had 10 grenades in my backpack, it would feel like 50 to me. I feel like, so, you know.
Yeah, you're hilarious.
Oh man, I'm really in a little bit of awe here.
Hey, will you throw that up on social media so I can like add it to I love supporting events like that. My buddy Jason McCarthy, who owns Go Ruck, which is a company that makes equipment to go rucking. He's another special forces guy. We do all of these events, these ruck events, to go and support, you know, military and law enforcement guys that have passed. So that is so awesome that you're doing that, Mike.
Thank you, man. Mike, my boy Mike Milmerstad, who's like a brother to me, and so you know, he keeps us going. He had this what do you call it? He had a slogan where he says "Earn the day." You know, he was always a hard working guy, and he had that military stance. You know what I mean? He kept himself up straight, and he always wanted good for people, and you know, I'm happy to go do it with him and his family, and go put some miles in for a good cause. So I will definitely send that to you on social media.
What separates a special forces, you know, America? Obviously, everyone knows who the Navy SEALs are. The people you're talking about, what specifically makes them so good? Where, like you said, they'll go through 100 people slicing like butter. You know, it's not like John Wick out there, you know. But what realistically makes them so dangerous?
Yeah, that's the question of the question old as time. When you look at warrior societies, the Spartan 300, the samurai, A little bit of it is selection. So these men are picked out of thousands to go into training. And then once they get into training, there is a purge that happens where only the best will complete that training. Then those that complete the training, they get onto a team, and then that team starts taking shape as to what their specific mission is. And then they have this task list of things that they have to perfect so that they can accomplish their mission. It's called core metal tasks, mission essential task list. Then they, as a unit, start going and training and conducting operations together, perfecting their equipment, protecting how they interact with each other, their communication, their tactics, their tactical training points. And ultimately, they morph into this thing that just can't be defeated when they go to do their job. So there's not like one thing that I say, well, this is why they're so special. It's like millions of little things that happen with millions of dollars are poured into these guys to transform them in truly the most elite fighting force on the planet. And they're all here in the United States. You know, if you're going to say, hey, these are the top 10 special operation units on the planet, it's like, okay, yep, those are all American. Yep, those are also all American. You know, like you get down to like 15, 16, 17 before you find the first non-American special operations elite unit.
Do guys like that, like the most savage of savage ones, do they look at people like John Jones and go, ah, man, I know what I would do to him?
Yeah.
No.
They're better than that, obviously.
Yeah. They, if there's not a person on the planet, I agree with Dana White, in the history of this species, I think John Jones, you lock John Jones in a room with John Jones and anybody else that's ever walked the face of the planet, and John Jones is going to walk out.
Yep.
I think we're living in a time with the best pugilist in the history of mankind.
One more to stack onto that. How many people, because I mean, you were so awesome because you're obviously Green Beret, all this shit, and then you are also out there beating out people in a cage. Like, you do it all. How many other special forces people do you think could be very effective MMA fighters? Or some of it, that's just not their thing because they get picked to do demolitions or whatever?
Yeah, I think a whole bunch of them. You know, you have the physicality in selection is rigorous and arduous. So just on the physical part, we're picking really extraordinary athletes that are mentally tough, that have resolve, obviously discipline. And that's just on the selection part, right? Then on the training side, obviously when you're learning how to use sniper systems and radio communication and satellite communication and demolition, the bandwidth of time to train is across all of these different skills. But if one of those guys directed that towards fighting, you know, you see like the Brian Stans and
Shout
Nick
out
Aguilar's. Yeah, like that's they would have been at the top.
Are you a part of the Kennedy family bloodline?
Nah, not really. I got to go grapple in a few minutes.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's jujitsu time. What do you know about that jujitsu, Mike? Do you do any of that anymore? Or are you just still scuffing a guy with your bare knuckles?
Well, my MMA grappling has always been much better with punching involved. But when I did throw the gi on for a little while there, I've trained with some of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world out here in Central Florida. Bruno Mafficine, Rodolfo Vieira, Jacare Souza, Lyoto Machida. I mean, when we put that gi on, man, it gets so hot in training and you can grab that sucker and twist them up. I had some pretty good moves in jiu-jitsu. I'm still a 4-stripe purple belt, practically a brown belt, and might as well be. I've tapped some black belts for sure, but
yeah. Mike, how did you? Because and I don't mean this in a mean way. You were like an okay MMA fighter, but you're good. Like, I mean, you're a problem for anybody that ever fought you just because you're so dangerous, man. But you took those gloves off, and you're one of the scariest dudes on the planet. Like, what did it just like click? Like, this is my thing. I'm telling you, dude. I love watching you fight now because like you scare the piss out of me. But like, you're dangerous before, but this is like next level. Like, what happened?
You know, man, I've always just been like a club goer. I like to be at the party, having fun, drinking, and a good time with that is when someone wants to run their mouth or start a fight, and then I win the fight, and then I walk away with the celebration. You know, that's how I think about it. I got a hard head, so they hurt their hands on my face, and I've learned
if
how
I was
to
in a club with you, all I'd be doing is like pouring your drinks and be like, "Yes, master." Be like, whatever you need. That's all you're gonna hear from me. I'm just like I'd be wearing a bow tie. I'd be like, Mike, what can I get you? You need a drink?
Whatever, dude. He's like, oh, you're an okay MMA fighter. I'm so much better than I've shown myself to be on
Dude, you're
some
freaking
of my
good.
fights. Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, Jeremy Stevens cleaned Eddie's clock, but it's weird how fights work out like that. You know, MMA math is so weird how you can mix up opponents, and you know, in bare knuckle, I'm looking forward to my next one. It should be coming in the next couple months, man. Shout out bare knuckle. I can't wait to compete.
I'll be watching.
Get myself back in that winner's circle and go put my knuckles on someone's head. I wish Jake Paul would have fought me or would fight me bare knuckle. We boxed. Now let's try bare knuckle. You think you got one up on me? Let's give it a shot.
You destroy him.
What would you say? You were in there, man. You had a stellar career, you know, and how do you look back on your career? Did you attain everything you wanted to, you know?
Yeah, I fought for the world title when I was at Strikeforce twice against Luke Rockhold and Jacare Souza. And in both those titles, that wasn't like the best me. And I was being a little coward in those matches. I was trying to like play the game and fight a game plan. But then you look at like fights when I fought Yoel Romero, when I fought Robbie Lawler, when I fought Michael Bisping. Like there was no game plan. I went in there to beat a dude's ass. And, like there's always been a dog in me. And I regret, if I could go back in time, I just tell that fighter to fight. Stop playing around. Stop worrying about scorecards. Stop worrying, just go beat that dude's ass. And that's the only thing I'd change. I sparred too much. I probably overtrained, but God, what a great sport. What a great group of people.
So fun to watch, man. Like, hats off to you. Always been a huge fan.
You've lived a couple amazing lives. You got to fight out there in front of thousands of people. You've been all over the world with the military and probably seen some that would make me vomit. So, much respect to you, Tim. We appreciate you coming on, man, and I hope you go get choked out in jiu-jitsu class for saying that I was an MMA fighter.
That was a segue into like, holy crap, you're just the best bare knuckle fighter on the planet.
No, I know.
I appreciate you guys, and thanks for everything you do. Thanks for being one hell of a fighter. And I'm not going to go get submitted, but I'll do my best.
Go have fun, man.
All right.
I'll go do some jitsu next time I'm in class.
Sounds good. Take care.
For you. All right. See you. Peace. Oh, man. Good stuff there.
That was
with
cool,
Tim
man.
Kennedy.
I knew this one would be different, because obviously he has the UFC background, so people are going to know who he is. But being able to, you asked him about the Stolen Valor thing. Yeah, it's stupid, man. I believe him. You?
You know what I can't stop thinking about?
What?
Is that he said when he fought in Strike Force for the title against Luke Rockhold, and that wasn't his best self. So Luke beat him, and I knocked Luke's teeth out.
Well, and that's why he was saying, like, Jesus Christ, dude, Mike took this dude out. I struggle with twice, you know?
Luke said that he's trained with Islam for years, and Islam has never submitted him. And they said they needed to call DC and ask him, and Luke said DC just be lying. So that doesn't sound like confident that DC would say no, he hasn't been submitted. But Luke in grappling, I know his grappling skills are incredible. He trains with Craig Jones all the time. They're always holding each other's crotch. It's really weird. You know, shout out Tim Kennedy, man. I'd love to. He's making me want to do some jiu-jitsu right now. I guess I still crave it a little bit. That's why I let my wife choke me out. I hope she doesn't think she can lose respect for me now because I allowed her to do that.
Yeah.
If you watch the video, it's funny because as soon as she starts squeezing, I told her, come on, go. I'm like, put my hands up and go. As soon as she squeezes, you hear me take a deep breath. Like I was still able to breathe while she was squeezing. I was like,
dude, it is.
And then I held my breath and went out.
It is funny, like how something so simple as like choking someone out, it isn't necessarily like some people just don't get it. Like they don't squeeze it right. Like I've had dudes like put you in a choke, put me in a choke, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, do you think you're choking me? It's weird, bro. But that video was funny as.
I remember being on a bus when I was in middle school, and this kid was talking about, I can do this trick. He said something about put you to sleep or something.
Where you take the deep breaths, he pumps you in the chest.
And he goes on this side, and then he goes on this side, and then he held his palms on my throat like this, and he goes, take a deep breath, and then breathe all the way out. And then he squeezed. This was the first time. I was probably in 6th, 7th grade in middle school in McKinley and Flint on the bus. And I remember waking up like, oh, put me to sleep. What the heck? I don't think other people even thought that it was real. They thought that I was joking.
We called it like the knockout game. It was like, you can put people to sleep. It's like, yeah. And you'd have like 5 homies like go somewhere where you're not going to get in trouble. And we'd all do that. And it's like funny as. So that's what's funny when you see someone get choked out and like someone new to the sport's watching and they're like, oh, they got to let go. That's going to kill him. Like he's going to be up. He's going to have CTE. That's not how that works. Like, dude, you'll wake up. We used to play that game like at church in school, like just knocking each other out with that stupid game. The exact same one, dude. And we're fine. Somewhat.
Oh, good times, man. We didn't, Tim ran out of time on us. He wanted to go train. He's probably going to go beat up on some blue belts.
One thing I will say real quick, I need everyone that gives hop on TikTok, follow OVERDOGS Podcast on TikTok. Our old account got locked. We're kind of getting moving on that site again. We want to live stream playing UFC 5, and you can come challenge me and fight me, and I'll be Mike Perry. If you beat me enough times, I don't know, maybe we'll shout you out on the show. But we need 1,000 followers on TikTok to live stream, and I'll do an hour-long 1-week stream each week of me just taking challenges. And you got to fight me as Mike Perry on UFC 5. We can do standard bang, MMA, anything. But we need 1,000 followers. Yeah, we'll get some good clips, bro. I'm good at that game, bro.
Good. That's what's up, man. Shoot, I'm on that. That's all I care about. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm on that. I'm on UFC 5, the updated version. I'm not downloadable content. I'm on the disc.
I wish they gave a bare knuckle version of you, dude. That'd be so sick because they have alter egos now in the game.
They took Conor McGregor off the game that he was gonna be on.
Call of Duty or something. What was he gonna be on?
No, he was gonna be on. They were making this game, this fight game or something, where he was like one of the bosses that you gotta fight. And I heard that they took him off the game because of the case.
Oh man, dude, that guy is a mess. I didn't even look into the basketball one they're talking about, but it's unfortunate because Conor was such a big icon of the sport, and he did what he did. You can't take it away from him. But dude, it's just disappointing to see how bad it's got.
It's hard, I guess, when you know, like, as a fighter, and I've lived through some pretty exciting moments at a young age all the way up to now. I mean, I had really exciting moments last year, and there's the highest highs, the lowest lows, and you gotta just remember what it was all for. You know, I'm sure he's good with his people. He's always posting pictures with his family and stuff. They're out there at the Black Forge Inn. I mean, it's definitely somewhere I wouldn't mind eating.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you got to look at the positives in life. Obviously, there's always going to be negatives, mistakes, moments that weren't your best or even worse. And, you know, if you're capable of greatness, you just do it again. With that said,
Boom.
Everyone, thank you all for joining us. This was a very educational episode with Mr. Tim Kennedy. He knows his stuff, and I can't call out anything there that sounded out of place to me, except the fact that I didn't know half of the stuff that he was talking about. And so I learned a lot, and I hope you guys all learned too. Thank you for joining us here today on OVERDOGS Podcast. Stay tuned for more. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and we'll keep bringing you bangers.
Hell yeah.
Peace.